Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. And today I just wanted to talk about the top three things that I learned from attending the LA Film School last year in Los Angeles in person. So I've been wanting to be a filmmaker ever since I can remember. Probably when I was 13, 14 is when I really was like, this is what I want to do. But growing up in the Midwest in Kansas City, it's not really a feasible possibility. Yes, there are some people that I would say have a easier time than others, whether it's financially they can make that happen. But in my scenario, I needed to do a lot of things, and eventually you get sidetracked with a different career path. I joined the military, started working on planes, got out, moved back to Kansas City, and then basically, yeah, I was working odd jobs and not doing anything that I wanted to do as far as my dream goes. So last year, I decided that I was going to pack up and move to Los Angeles and attend the LA Film School and try to make my dream a reality. I was there for a couple months. I decided to move back to Kansas City because I learned a few things. And here are the top three things I learned attending film school in Los Angeles. Number three, get technical. So, what that means is that the bottom line is what it takes to make movies. Yeah, connections are great, like if you got them, all that kind of stuff. But really, if you're technically savvy, you can make the movie that you want to see, or at least get something made. The less people you have to rely on, the easily you can get something done. Easier you can get something done. So, for me, I had to learn editing. The first editing program that they had us use was Avid Media Composer, which was terrible. Everyone in my class was like, "No one uses this. Why are we using this?" And our teacher was just stubborn, like, "No, everyone in the business uses this. You guys don't understand." And then a year later, I'm doing online classes, and we're using Adobe Premiere Pro, and it is just night and day. So much easier to understand. You can edit simple YouTube videos with that, but once you understand the basic premise and the functions of Adobe Premiere Pro, the just light bulbs go off in your brain where you're just like that, that meme where the guy's like you just realize all the things that you can do now because you know how to edit. So I learned really quickly how to edit, and now I feel. I mean, there's still transitions and things like that that obviously I could get better on. I'm not a master of it, but really quickly I feel like I'm really proficient. So get technical, learn how to edit, get familiar with editing, and then the next thing I would say is cameras. You need to have an understanding of how to hold a camera, how to operate a camera, even if that's not your jam, which like I'm admitting that I could tell someone I want this shot, I want this angle, I want this, but me actually doing it, I'm not a tech. I'm trying to get better technically, but I'm just saying that like it's not all these cameras have 1,000 functions. If you actually get a hold of a camera that someone's like, "How much is this worth?" and you're like, "It's worth like about $8,000," and that's a cheap camera compared to like some of the other ones that I've seen. Um, you know, there's just so many functions in it that it would take you a long time for you to like fully master that camera. So my advice would be to anyone, um, you obviously want your films to look a certain way. Like no one wants a film that's shot on a crap camera that looks like crap, the lens is crap, whatever. So my advice to someone would be like for me, I want my films to look prestigious or look. If you saw it, you would go, "Oh, that was a movie that released in theaters. That's what I want it to look like." So my advice to him was if you're not technically savvy, you can either learn how to operate a camera or you can just hire somebody. Like you can rent a camera and then hire someone that's familiar with that camera and go, "Hey, will you be my cameraman?" And basically be the person that's tech savvy that knows how to use that. I just tell you what to do with it. You can go one of two ways. I just think that if you're a smaller operation, it is better to learn, like to watch YouTube videos, try to learn. Um, One big thing that I tell people like don't do, and I had to learn this the hard way. But one of the first things I did was I wanted to make YouTube videos slash movies, and I bought myself like a cheap, like not super cheap. It was like $400, like a Nikon camera. Um, it was terrible. It looked like crap. My first couple videos on one of my channels, they just looked terrible, and I just was like, wow, I just wasted all this money, and then it broke. It had multiple problems, but the bottom line is I don't advise anyone to do that. I know people say like go out shoot it. You should go out and shoot something and get better. I would just say use your phone. Your phone. I'm using mine right now. Like your phone has a better camera than a lot of the stuff that you're going to pick up for a few $100. Really, you don't start messing with cameras like I said until you got a couple grand that you're willing to throw at it. And even still, I know it's a lot of people talk about just rent a camera. If you're going to be shooting something for, let's say, like a week, just rent a camera. It's going to be cheaper in the long run. Um, so that's a big thing. Big inspiration for me of wanting to be a filmmaker is Kevin Smith. He did Clerks famously. He shot that, I think he said within a month, and he obviously shot a night. But this pretty much leads into the last thing I want to say on the technical side before I move on is lighting. Lighting is, like, I would say, the last fundamental technical piece that you really need. People say sound, all that. Yes, you need good sound, but if you have good lighting, and you need to figure out how to manipulate lighting. And in the film school, they did teach us that in one of the first classes is here's all these different techniques of how you can manipulate lighting. For me, natural lighting is super important, and it's super cheap because you can just do it for free. So when in doubt, if you can shoot something outside, obviously you just want to have like a little bit of cover. That way it's not direct sunlight beaming down on someone's face. Sometimes that's okay, but you just don't want sunlight in the camera. You want to be able to cover the camera up. But yeah, simple things. For lighting, I mean, you can buy more expensive lights. You can get some that are fairly cheap. A couple $100. You can get your lighting set up, and that'll pretty much take care of it. Obviously, you get more complex, but that'll happen. Not everyone's gonna be like a Christopher Nolan where they got the best setups and all that kind of stuff. So it's okay. But that's the last part of the technical side that I want to talk about. The second part is you don't need to live in Los Angeles to be the filmmaker that you want to be. I learned that. We're all naive. We're all told these stories about, go out to Los Angeles. That's where the movies are getting made. You need to go out there. Well, the bottom line is you move out there, you're a nobody. You may have ideas, like I had ideas or like stories that I want to do, but guess what? So does everybody else. I would say Los Angeles, whatever its population is, half of those people think that they're writers and think that, like, their script is the best and their idea is the best. I mean, I was in classes full of everybody, and we had to pitch stories to each other, and and we had to make little small movies. I did like an action movie where like I was in a plane and I had just woken up. And even then, I mean, I can criticize myself. I mean, like, my acting isn't the greatest, so I acknowledge that. But all these other people were trying to make, like, you know, get high movies, like, just about like some random person's day in the life of them being like a weed addict. So, on one hand, there's a lot of competition, but then on the other hand, for like good ideas, really good ideas, there's really not. There's a lot of people that I would say are fairly mediocre, and I'm not trying to hate on people. I'm just saying that I was like, wow, this is my competition. Okay. So yeah, that's a big one for me. You don't need to live in Los Angeles. Wherever you're at, I would say stay there. Don't get me wrong. I learned some things going out there. Maybe you got to move out to LA briefly to learn these lessons yourself, but I would hope I could save you some trouble, save you some mileage, save you some money where you don't have to do all that. And the last thing, the number one thing that I would say is use your resources. This is something I've heard many times, and this is what I was going to get back to with the Kevin Smith thing. Kevin Smith worked as a retail clerk at a gas station and a video stop is basically what he was working at. And he decided to come up with a movie called Clerks, where he basically used his environment and came up with a story. El Mariachi, I think it's Robert Rodriguez that did that one. It's famously one of the cheapest movies ever made. He had a bus at his disposal, so he used it. Use what's at your fingertips, what you have available to you. So there's some scripts that you might write that some amazing things happening, sci-fi, a lot of special effects, explosions, and other worlds, all this kind of stuff. Save that for scripts that you either want to keep once you get to that level, or I would just see if you could sell that script if you have it fully developed. But the bottom line is I would not be trying to make that as your first movie. That's just setting yourself up for failure. The things that are within your range to do, first-time filmmaker, comedies, but I would warn you, comedies are very hard for the fact of it. Even if your movie is 50% funny, you make people laugh 50% of the time, you would think that's a good rate. But if someone sits down and watches an hour and 45-minute movie and they go, well, there was a whole 45-minute, 45 minutes of that movie, I just wasn't laughing. 50 minutes of that movie, I wasn't laughing. That's not good. People want more than that. They're basically wanting a chuckle or a full-blown laugh. Like, I would say a chuckle every 2 minutes, a full-blown laugh like every 5 minutes at least. And that's hard to do in a movie. And like I said, sometimes it just takes either bigger budget or it takes actual quality comedians or actors to really make your idea come to life. I mean, you can think about so many ideas that if I tried to make a movie like, Talladega Nights, it's not going to be all that funny. Will Ferrell and everything that they were able to put into the budget makes that movie even better. But yeah, use your resources. So, I've thought about like jobs that I worked, what I could do, and I would tell anyone, if you're working somewhere, ask them. Like I was working at the airport, and I asked, one of the I just asked somebody. I go, hey, would I be able to shoot? Because they were opening our new airport, and they were closing down the old one. And I was like, well, what's happening with the old one? They're like, well, we're going to demolish it. And I was like, what if I shot in there? I never did. I left that job. But the bottom line is, you don't know until you ask. So ask people, could I shoot here? Could I film here? And you'll be surprised. Sometimes they'll be like, yeah, no problem. It's whatever. So um, but what I was saying was easiest movies to make, horror movies, comedies, which like I said, comedy is a little more difficult, but if you're especially gifted, you can do it. Horror movies, you can do it, but you got to think about like what's truly going to set you apart. There's a lot of silly slasher movies or wannabe thriller movies, but if you can make something great, you can get people's attention. I think part of that is if you have a really good camera and you can make things look movie quality, then you can really start getting to work on like, oh, I can make this visual, make this look great. And yeah, the last one would be like a drama or a thriller. You can do that on a cheap budget. And that's kind of like what I'm trying to do right now is make one of those. But yeah, overall, if I'm advising someone, if you're not in the Los Angeles area, I would say with the cost of living, I would not recommend going there. I had my GI Bill, and even then, I mean, I was working full time. I worked myself to the bone. I would wake up at 6 in the morning to get to work by 7, or sorry, to get to school by 7, which you're in LA traffic, it's probably an hour that you're having to wait. And then I would be at school up until like 4 p.m. and then head straight to work, and then I'd work till midnight. And I did that 5 days a week altogether. And then I would work on Saturday mornings up until probably like 2 in the afternoon. So I was dead tired, and that ran me ragged. And that was part of the reason why I wanted to move back. I also have a daughter, so that was the other reason. And yeah, I just, like I said, I had an epiphany that I was like, I'm not really accomplishing what I wanted to do out here. I did learn some things, but overall, you can learn how to edit with Adobe Premiere Pro. You can learn how to do that. It might cost you a little bit of money if you don't have like I have the school, since I'm still currently a student. I have the school that I can use that right now. But overall, I would tell someone get access to a good editing program. Like I said, Adobe Premiere Pro. Get yourself a good camera, and like I said, I think you should just rent one. Watch some YouTube videos of how to operate it, and then just rent one when you're finally ready to shoot your movie. I would do that. Sound equipment you can actually get for not all that expensive. You can get for a couple $100. You can get some lav mics that are actually pretty good that you can just put on whoever's in the shot. You can use those. And yeah, as far as crew goes, like my biggest recommendation: use your friends, use your family. That sounds terrible to say, but basically use your resources. Who you got around you? Like I got 5 or 6 like quality best friends around here that I know that if I was like, hey, I'm ready to shoot right now, they'll be like, yeah, let's do it. I mean, that's what I used to do in high school. Like we would just all make movies. I'm not saying they were all that great, but like we would go around and we'd shoot movies. So yeah, use your resources. And like I said, no one needs to move out to Los Angeles. If you're asking me, is the film school worth it? I would say for someone that's not like, if you got like a full on like full ride, then I would say yeah, give it a shot. Or if you're a veteran and you got your GI Bill, go give it a shot because they are pretty easy to get into. Like I'm not lying. But I would say for the average person, if this is going to have to come out of your pocket, I know it sucks because you're like, well, I'm not making progress. I'm not learning anything. If you look up on YouTube videos like this, you can find the answers to a lot of your problems of how do I get started? How do I do that? Have a good idea, like work on your idea, work on the script constantly, refine your idea. And then when you're finally got that done, and there's going to be problems, you're going to have to reshoot some certain things, edit out certain things, whatever. But once you have your idea in place, you can rent a nice camera. If you got your crew, you know who you've cast as certain roles. A lot of people will take on jobs, and you can offer them like maybe a percentage of what you might make, or you can just go, hey, I can get you this, and that's it, and then they'd be done, and then you make whatever profit you make. But another thing I guess I need to talk about is film festivals. People ask like if you make a movie, what do you do with it? There are plenty of film festivals around. Like I know in Kansas City, I got introduced to some film festivals recently as far as like places I could submit my movie. Obviously, Sundance is a big one. There's the Toronto Film Festival. There's a lot of film festivals. Obviously, they got big movies that premiere there, but also you can, if your movie's good enough, you can still submit it, and you never know, it could get picked up. I mean, Kevin Smith's whole career is based off of Clerks got picked up because somebody liked it and was like, wow, this guy's actually got something, and then the rest is history. So don't give up and look for like-minded people. So if anyone ever sees this, I'm still trying to like make my first actual movie. So if anyone sees this that's interested in filmmaking, you can comment below and we can maybe message, exchange emails, and get a hold of each other. And yeah, because I'd love to do my own production company. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So if you guys have any questions about filmmaking, about the LA Film School, any technical questions, I'm not pretending I'm an expert, but I will try to get you the information that you need or point you in the right direction. The last thing I want to do is have you guys waste your money. So anyway, that's it for now. I'll come at you with another list or another informative video. Have a good one, guys.